gratitude and being grateful is kind of like a muscle in a way, in that we have to be intentional about changing that state. You can't feel gratitude the same time that you're feeling fear. It's impossible.
The following is a Big Sky Economic Development production.
It's Mars B.
And Kavo.
And this is The Vault at 201 North Broadway.
A business podcast.
Where we bring you entrepreneurs, small business owners, and community leaders of Montana.
To share their stories, expertise, industry insights, and strategies.
And we are sharing them all with you every single week.
You don't want to miss this.
Learn how to better start, manage, and grow your business.
And your leadership style.
Tangible takeaways to save you time and improve whatever it is that you're working on.
You're listening to The Vault.
Thank you to the Small Business Development Center for sponsoring The Vault at 201 North Broadway. The Small Business Development Center offers free personalized support from business plans to financial projections and beyond, empowering small businesses to thrive. Reach out to us at bigsky.economicdevelopment.org.
Jason, Kayla and I have known you for a long time, and so we're really excited to have you here today to talk about your journey. And you made a big career transition from dental to real estate. And so what was your background that led you into dental? Let's start there.
Sure. How far back do we go here?
How far back you want to, however far back you want to go.
I was born in 1980.
I'm wondering what Jason's age was. Do the math.
I guess career-wise, I started really young. I've been in sales a majority of my life, and this is kind of plays into my journey a little bit, and I'll kind of elaborate on that a bit. But when I was 15, my parents told me that I need to either pay for my car insurance by getting a job, or I can play sports. And it wasn't, I didn't have the luxury of having both. So I ended up getting a job. I sold newspaper subscriptions back in Arizona for the Arizona Republic, and I went door to door. And as much as I hated that, I loved it at the same time, in that a door-to-door sales position when you're 15 will teach you almost everything that you need to know about the world.
Gosh, I was just thinking
age.
the confidence you'd have to build so quickly.
To knock on the door.
Yeah, just to knock on the door. Yeah.
And it wasn't even confidence at that point. It was complete fear.
I need this, but are they going to tell? Did you get a lot of no's?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I got the door. I think I can't remember exactly what my opening spiel was when people opened the door, but it was something to the effect of, hey, before you slam the door in my face, let me just tell you something. And it worked. And I ended up getting Rookie of the Year, which is
at 15.
At 15,
That's
yeah.
insane.
And granted, this is it was a company called Circulation Marketing. They were a sales force for the Arizona Republic, so much like the Billings Gazette, but in a much bigger capacity, being in Arizona. Anyways, so I started in sales at 15, and ever since then, I was in some sort of sales position. I worked for Discover Card for a while. I worked for a telecommunications company in sales for a long time, and I was very fortunate in that. Made good money respectively for my age bracket. Well, all the meanwhile, I was going to college and taking my prereqs. I'm embarrassed to say it took me way too long to get the prereqs that I did. I probably had, I kept on switching. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, so I took, not joking, pretty much every prereq that you could possibly think of.
But you're covered.
Yeah, absolutely. I was covered in whichever direction I wanted to go. So that was very interesting. And I didn't have this sense of urgency to get my bachelor's just because I was making really good money at my current job. I just knew that wasn't the place that I wanted to be. So fast forward, I decided that I just, I wanted to get away from the sales portion, and everything prior to that was pretty high pressure. I had to be in direct contact with consumers, and overall, it just wasn't something that I really saw myself doing in the future. So kind of fast forward a little bit, I had met my now wife, Jenny, and I decided that I wanted to get out of sales. So I went back to school. I got accepted into the dental hygiene program in Flagstaff, Arizona, which is great. My brother had done that program prior to, and he had gone off and since became a dentist after he was a hygienist for a while. And I was kind of following suit. So I went to finish college in Flagstaff. My wife and I got married, and we ended up moving up here to Billings in 2015. She's originally from Glasgow, which is northeast Montana, and I couldn't live there. So we kind of met in the middle here in Billings, and fortunately her parents had moved down here as well. So we had got married. She was pregnant at the time. And my goal was to go to dental school ultimately. So I practiced hygiene, which is where I met you, Marcel. Fun times for sure.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Was a long time ago. But crazy how fast things change. So, I proposed the idea of going to dental school, and my wife, no discredit to her, but she was pregnant. We had a new house. She was finally back with her family. Kind of made her decide that, she's okay with supporting me if I wanted to go away for 4 years and go through dental school, or I can pick a different option. Now, just to back up a tad, when I first moved here and I started as a dental hygienist, I had gotten my real estate license because my father-in-law is a broker here. So I was doing real estate kind of on the side and handling what I could handle while still being a full-time hygienist. And over time, that kind of strengthened, and my willingness to depart from my, new family with a new kid kind of diminished. And I had kind of two options. I could either go full-time real estate, or I could go off for 4 years in dental school. And my thought at that time was I just didn't want to be away from my new family. So decided to jump 2 feet into real estate. I was at a point, and not to go into too much detail, but I was at a point where I was kind of sneaking off into the bathroom at the dental office. And I told Chris this. I was just getting busier, and I'm very fortunate for that, for sure. But Chris kind of pulled me aside and, said kind of gave me the encouragement to jump in with 2 feet. And that was the scariest moment ever. And the reason why I got into dentistry was to get away from sales, ultimately.
But it sounds like you've always had like this hustle, like you're doing multiple things at one time. I mean, you have a full-time job really as in dental and then in the dental world, but then you're also on the side doing this other thing as well. And that's like, you've got, it sounds like a passion for learning and growing and hustling.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And I didn't realize that at that time. I think my parents, they raised me in a way that I have to be independent. There was no option to not take control of my circumstances. And there was a portion of my life where I really resented that. I would have loved to play, sports full time in high school and do that whole thing. But on the flip side of things, I'm very grateful for that nudge, because it's kind of constructed how I view life and where we're going pushing forward. So as scary as that was, stepping away from hygiene, I couldn't be more appreciative, and I look back on that quite a bit, because being a dentist and being a real estate broker is very similar. We have, this community of people that we try to gain trust with, and we perform services that benefit them long-term. And I really enjoy working for myself. So it was kind of hand in hand. It's a blessing in disguise. I never thought, as a kid, I never thought I'd be selling real estate in Billings, Montana, but it just...
Wait, that wasn't your dream when they asked you in kindergarten, what do you want to be when you go home?
Montana.
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't even know where Montana was as a kid.
Yeah, I was like, you probably didn't. I'm like, did I know where Arizona was? I don't know.
Yeah.
Growing up.
Right.
I mean, you see it on a map in like 4th grade when you take like the capital test of each state, but it's just different.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
the
really
capital
different.
test.
It's fascinating you bring that up. We've talked a little bit about it on some of our other episodes, but just what are those things that we do when we're younger, during our upbringing, like from a young age to, after high school, that really help shape and build us into the areas of our career where we're at today?
Yeah, it's hard to know too, right? Like
yeah.
You don't know which answer is the right answer.
And then when you look back, you're like, oh, I really learned a lot. And that's really helped me propel forward in this way.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice.
Have you guys heard about the story of the Chinese farmer?
I'm going to say no, but maybe.
Please tell us.
I'm going to tell you just a brief version.
Yeah, tell us a
Okay.
brief version.
Okay. So there's a Chinese farmer, and he has a son, and he goes out one day and he tends to his land, and he comes back. And the horse that, they had one horse, they lived in poverty, and the horse that he had run away. And all the neighbors came by and asked the farmer and told the farmer, isn't that a shame that your horse ran away? And the farmer says, well, maybe. Next day, the farmer goes out, tends to his land, and when he gets back, his horse came back, and it brought back 3 wild horses. And the neighbors come over that night, and they say, "Oh, isn't that great that that your horse brought back 3 other horses? That's incredible." The farmer says, "Well, maybe." Next day, farmer goes out, tends to his land, comes back, and his son was trying to break one of the horses, the wild horses, and he fell off and broke his arm. And the neighbors came by and they say, "Man, isn't that a shame that your son broke his arm?" And the farmer says, "Well, maybe." The next day, farmer goes out, tends to his land, comes back to find out that the army recruitment had come by and tried to recruit his son, but they passed over him because his arm broke. And the neighbors come by and they say, "Oh, isn't that great that your son doesn't have to go off to war?" And the farmer says, "Maybe." And the point in that is that, whether it's good or bad, is you never know where that path is going to lead you. Mm-hmm. And sometimes those negative things will really be a true blessing to you. And sometimes the seemingly positive things ultimately will be a detriment, and life is finicky and it's uncertain and there's a lot of variability in it. And we can't just react to things, with an ultimatum. We have to let it play out and see where those decisions, and those circumstance of events really lead you.
So with that transition into real estate, we'd love to chat with you about what are some of those things you've learned. But we had you on our list as we were looking at building out themes for this season 2 we're in with our podcast, and leading with gratitude was a topic we really wanted to talk about. And you were the person we thought of with that, because every time we're with you, we see you, we chat with you, you're just you are very intentional, and you always bring up how grateful you are, and you lead with gratitude. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, and when you proposed this, the idea of trying to talk about gratitude for an hour seemed a little daunting, because I can school you for 5 minutes, but so I did, I just did some digging and to really stabilize this conversation. So I brought some stuff. I hope you don't mind. But,
no, I think it's great.
Gratitude is it's not something that you can narrow down to any one feeling or action. So I just started with the definition, right? So defining gratitude and its significance is the quality of being thankful, the readiness to show appreciation for and to return kindness. And I think that latter part is very important for many reasons. But Robert Edmonds said, gratitude has been conceptualized as an emotion, a virtue, a moral sentiment, a motive, a coping response, a skill, and an attitude. So, to kind of narrow down any one thing that encapsulates gratitude is very difficult. But it runs along the same lines as a lot of other words as well. Like, you can't necessarily talk about gratitude without talking about sacrifice and suffering or happiness or anything else that might kind of contribute to that. And I think of, gratitude kind of as like a cookie.
I love cookies.
Me too. Me too. But gratitude in itself is like the cookie, and then all the other emotions and things that are tied to that, like suffering and pain and everything, is kind of the ingredients that make gratitude what it is, right? Like, to me, gratitude and being grateful is the byproduct of everything else that we've experienced. Like, we can't feel a sense of gratefulness without having the perception of going through turmoil or pain because we have nothing to relate it to, right? Like I feel like you have to feel that pain before you could feel what you're thankful for. Like a kid, for example, the worst thing that ever happens to a kid is the worst thing, right? So like if a kid doesn't experience any pain, but they had their balloon pop, right? In their world, that is the worst thing that's ever happened to them. So they throw a fit, but they don't have any perspective as to how bad things can get. They just think that, like, shoot, the balloon popped. That was what I was treasuring.
Liked it.
Or I dropped my ice cream.
Yeah, huge deal.
Yeah. Still, to me, very huge deal.
I know. I'm 35, and if I drop it, I'm going right back in there.
Me too. Me too.
And another cone. Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, gratitude it's been one of the best ingredients, and it's made my business grow. It's helped my relationships with my wife. It's helped my relationship with my kids. I think it's the main ingredient to all of us. The problem is that we get so sucked into external things that we don't get to express it. We don't get to feel it. We're not intentional about it. And hopefully we can get into.
How are you intentional about it? Because as a realtor, I assume, I don't know, but you guys have a lot of things going on, and things don't just happen during that 8 to 5. Things happen in those other hours, other days of the week. But how do you keep it top of mind intentionally?
It's not easy. Real estate, and I don't want to get too in the weeds about real estate in general, but it is it's an industry. It's a hard industry. You know, the failure rate of being a realtor is 87% in the first 3 years, which is very tough.
That's really high.
And a lot of people think that, you know, it's where you make the big bucks and you get your license and people just start calling you. But it's not that. And we have to have 100% success rate, much like any entrepreneur. You have to have 100% success rate in order to be compensated, right? So you can't get 99% of the way there unless you hit the closing table. You're not going to make it. And there's scenarios where you work with people for 3 or 4 years and, you know, maybe they change their mind and they move elsewhere. And for that, you have to be understanding, because it could be very easy to get consumed about things, but you know, it is what it is. And our goal, I think, if you're in the industry for the right reasons, as long as you have the goal to help people, you're going to be fine. It's the people that maybe have ulterior motives that don't succeed long term.
They're just looking at it for the money.
Yeah. Yeah. And you could smell that, right? And it doesn't have to necessarily be real estate, but it could be anything. It could be real estate. It could be, you know,
Car salesman.
Sure. Yeah. Sometimes those are aligned with each other. But, you know, any job, if someone is out there to provide a service that is not in your best intentions or not in their best intentions, then you could feel that. And I think a big thing, not to be boastful at all, but truly my goal is to help people. And that is kind of part of, you know, the gratitude morale is that, you know, here we are to share a good experience and to provide a good service. I think the compensation is just that, is just the byproduct of good service.
Mm-hmm.
So we've talked a lot about what gratitude is. How does that contribute to resilience and emotional intelligence in leadership?
That's a heavy question.
I like to give the heavy ones.
That's a good one.
She was waiting for her moment to pounce.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
So say that one more time.
So how does gratitude contribute to the resilience and emotional intelligence for leadership?
Well, I think ultimately it has to be something that is longstanding. You know, resilience is all about, you know, taking your licks and moving forward. And I think the universe provides us every opportunity as long as you're living, you know, and I think as long as you're growing and learning, the opportunity is all there. Despite all the things that may have happened to somebody, good or bad, mainly bad because people tend to focus on the bad. It doesn't mean that they won't have opportunity in the future, right? And real estate specifically is that, no matter the market, there's homes that sell every day. So there's closings that happen every single day, whether the interest rates are high or low, people's familial statuses change, or they want to move to a different school district, or they want to upsize or downsize. There's always going to be people that are moving. And a lot of people get stuck in this scarcity mindset rather than the abundance mindset. And that's really what has helped me in that, it's not like I have to have this slice of the pie per se, but rather there's an infinite amount of business out there that I can try and attract. And thinking it from an abundance standpoint helps me provide resilience, because it's very easy to get down on myself if something doesn't happen or it doesn't go the way that I thought it should go, because there's always opportunity around the corner. And that could be for any business. It's very easy to get in the mindset of, I've got to have, X or Y to kind of keep up with the Joneses. But rather, if you wake up the next day, that's a blessing in itself, to be able to go after and pursue what you're looking to do.
So what are some of the things that stick out to you in the past, however many years, I'm not sure, I am bad at math in my head, that you've been in real estate that have really stuck out to you as you've grown into your career?
Without coming off too cheesy, I give a lot of credit to you, Marcel.
Oh, no.
just because, and I know you're not looking for this, but you're the type of person that is always trying to engage people, especially in your role with Big Sky Economic Development. You're trying to engage people, and that's been a huge blessing. I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned, real estate specifically, is that, if we could lead with value and not worry about reciprocity, we're going to be successful, because a lot of people have this like tug of war type scenario where I give you something and now I expect something in return. Mm-hmm. And I think when you give, not only is that a sense of gratitude, but mainly when you're not looking for something in return is when you're provided for.
And I feel like that's so great. It comes back to, I think, in bigger ways than you could have expected, and you weren't even expecting it.
Yeah. Like someone smarter than me said, if you help enough people get what they want, you're going to get what you want.
Mm-hmm. It's a give first mentality.
Yeah. Zig Ziglar said, gratitude is the healthiest of all human emotions. The more you express gratitude of what you have, the more likely you will have even more to express gratitude for.
I really like that.
And I'm not saying this is like some affirmation BS, like not like lying to yourself per se, because it does have to be genuine. Mm-hmm. But I honestly think that, the more you can give somebody without the expectation to get something in return, the better off you're going to be.
And practicing it daily. And it really is like a mindset shift, I think, too, of, like even Kayla and I, it could be as we record these, because we record a few back to back every other week.
Secrets out of the bag.
Yeah. But it's like, it's changing that from like, oh, we have to do that. It's like, no, we get to like talk to these cool people doing great things
these
in
amazing
Billings.
stories.
We get to be podcast hosts, which is like crazy in itself
so
to think
cool.
about. But that mindset shift in things.
Not to mention in a cool space.
Yeah, it's
It
fun.
is a
For the
really
people
cool
that can't
space.
see this, we're in a bank vault, which is pretty incredible.
With the door propped open.
It is pinned. Yeah. We should say pinned open.
It
Is
is
there a
not
way to get
propped.
out?
Yeah. The door literally is pinned, so it can never close again.
Okay.
So you
Because
don't have to
otherwise
worry
we
about
could
it.
not get out.
But
Yeah.
that little, I don't know what you call it, the thing that looks like it's spinning. It looks
It's a
like
vault ventilator. But I don't think it works.
It actually
Does it?
comes out of the wall, and there's a hole, so there would be airflow if necessary, but we don't have to think about that because
Gives me like really bad goosebumps.
I don't have claustrophobia, but something about being locked in a vault where like I couldn't get out because of the cement it just messes me up.
I think everybody's on board with that.
Okay, yeah, I feel
it's
feel
super
good about
terrifying.
it. Because like in a room, you just
Yeah.
bust your way through the sheetrock and you'd be okay.
Mm-hmm.
But in here, you can't. And I don't think we have even things in here to chisel our way out.
Right.
So
I'm going to post back to the client. Kind of, you're talking a lot about leading with service. So really doing what's best for your client, for that prospect client. And on your website, you talked about just that, like you're focused on one thing, the client. And for those like listening, whatever type of business that they have, what does that look like for you in daily things, weekly, monthly, yearly things? To keep that focus on the client, because I think the outside noise, like we were talking about earlier, just with social media, news, the internet, AI, like it's overwhelming. And so how do you keep that client mentality focus? Because with the growth of AI, if you can like hone in on knowing how to use it, but it's kind of overwhelming.
And it's a little terrifying.
Yeah, it's super scary.
Because I'm the type that likes to like call. Like if I'm like looking, I'm like, can I just call them and
oh yes.
chat?
Oh gosh, let me just talk to you real quick.
But yeah, you were going to add.
I think a lot of it comes like down to the fundamentals and the basics. You know, we live in a terrifying world. I mean, 2000, granted, we don't have the perspective of what it was to live like during the reset or the Depression, but you know, I could probably guess that it's a different fear, of course, but the amount of accessibility to information, where we're at now and where we're going to be with artificial intelligence is incredibly terrifying. And I hate to sound naive, but I think it's very important to protect yourself on what you're ingesting. Because, you know, when you put good stuff in, good stuff is going to come out. And that could be in the form of books or podcasts or TV shows or even, you know, family. You know, I'm sure we all have that one family member that is a bit toxic. And,
we all have that. Yeah.
And, you know, even if it's family, sometimes you got to protect yourself, you know.
Boundaries, so healthy.
Very Yeah, very much so. And I think probably in the last 5 years, I've been very intentional about, again, not to be naive, but kind of living in a bubble. You know, 100 years ago, we didn't care what was going on the other side of the world, right? I mean, some people cared, but for the most part, we didn't have access to that information. They had a newspaper that they'd get, maybe, right?
Maybe.
And it would be delayed. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
So It's like outdated already.
So the fact that we're privy to all the world's issues is
heavy.
We're not, we can't. I don't think that we're designed to be able to take on that.
World peace means something completely different.
Totally. What does that even look like, right?
But I was listening to something else, but I like where this is going because it's like, yeah, you have your news, your daily things, but it's also being aware of like where we've come from as a society, as a culture, as just human beings, so that maybe because we don't want to lose sight of that and then repeat some of those big bad mistakes again. So it's like having that, ingesting that content. Of course, you want to know what's going on to a certain extent, especially in your local areas, but having that content that is not time sensitive, that it's maybe happened or can be used, you know, like it's not the news from today that then changes tomorrow on a project.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of it boils down to what you can control as well. You know, it's very easy to get wrapped up in the negativity in the world because that's what gets clicks and exposure. But there are a lot of things that you can control within your sphere and your world and your community that I think we should focus on. But a lot of people are, including myself, is like the fear word is just so devastating and paralyzing, right? But there's kind of two different ways to think about it. I was listening to something from Tony Robbins, and he had mentioned something effective like, you can't expect new results with the old behavior, right? So to change your results, you have to change behavior. To change your behavior, you have to change the emotional state you're in. And it's kind of like a muscle in a way, in that we have to be intentional about changing that state you're in. You can't feel gratitude the same time that you're feeling fear. It's impossible. They're compartmentalized. They're opposite of each other. But the easy thing as a human is to gravitate to that fear and to hold on to it, right? But there is a way, and his exercise in this, and we'll go into, there's some other gratitude exercises too that hopefully we can talk about, but his exercise in this is, and you could do this at home or wherever, but it's called a power pose. And it seems a little silly, but you stand up, you put your hands on your hips.
Superhero.
Superhero, right? Wonder Woman, Superman, and you breathe deeply for 2 minutes. And the effects of that is it's a 20% increase in testosterone, both male and female, a 22% reduction in cortisol, which is the stress hormone, and then a 33% increase in the likelihood that you're going to do that activity. So if you're fearful of something, you do that for 2 minutes, your chances of actually accomplishing that, whether it's fear-based or other, are significantly higher. And that's free. I mean, like imagine a pill giving you the ability to reduce fear and
Lower
reduce
stress.
excitement and reduce stress, right?
It's like before going on to speak or something. I know, like, when following some social media people, like before they speak, it's like they do their version of that. And it's like just getting your mind right, like having a moment to yourself and being really intentional with that power pose or meditation or whatever it is that they're doing, like that's short, but it gets you like, no, I got it. I'm here. I'm ready.
Yeah. And you've been in those positions where you have to talk in front of a bunch of people.
I do. Yeah, I don't love it, but I'm getting better at it, I think.
Well, you seem
thanks
to
to this podcast, but
seem to do well. But fear is different for everybody. And I think just personally, goal setting is a big deal to me. But a lot of people, when they set goals, they're setting goals for a year or 5 years down the road. And I think a big shift for me personally was when I just tried to accomplish a win every day, and those wins are going to they're going to produce results long term, but it's hard to take those baby steps, of a 5-year goal, because you don't know where to start. But as long as you're focusing on a daily basis on accomplishing that win is when you're going to get somewhere. So just personally for me, I focus on getting a daily win, and that could be professionally, but that could also be, with mentorship with my kids, with improving communication with my wife, with doing something maybe that I've put off for a long time. It's very minimal in the moment, but long term, it definitely builds up and helps you feel a sense of accomplishment. And I think that, just that feeling alone really propels people into growth. Because if you're either growing or dying. And I think life is all about learning and growing and being productive. A lot of people think, I'm sorry, I'm getting on a rabbit hole here, but a lot of people think that, people are selfish, and I could see that, right? But I challenge that, because if you guys have ever learned something new or discovered something or see something, what's the first thing that you want to do? Go
tell someone about it.
Exactly, right? You want to share that experience.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I think that the more perspective we can gain, and the more that we can learn and grow and share that, the better off we're going to be. It's very easy to be a cynic. It's very human to be a cynic, and it's very human to be negative and, opposed to anything that's good, because it doesn't take any skill in being negative, right? But it does take skill in being grateful and happy. And it's not easy. It takes work,
daily.
It's just, daily, right? You go to the gym, you're not going to get results in a day. You gotta be
years.
Consistent in that. Yeah. Years. Eternal, right? Because otherwise
goes back to that story you were telling about. Is you never know what if it's a good thing that happens, if it's going to turn negative, or if it's a bad thing that happens, if it'll turn positive. But you just have to have a happy outlook or a positive outlook on it all the time to keep yourself going along.
And feeling accomplished daily. I really like that with what you said. I think, like we've talked about, life can be a little overwhelming, but it's really focusing on what did I do today, and reflecting on that, even if it's a smaller win, that then you're intentional about the next day on what your next day win is. So what were some of those other gratitude? I love the power pose.
Yeah, you
What
said
were
your
your other
gratitude.
ones?
Okay.
I'm sure our listeners are curious also. We can't leave them without.
I got some science.
Yeah.
I love it. We love science.
I'm not a neuroscientist. I'm a real estate
What?
broker.
Okay.
But I'm taking this from the words from them directly. So bear with me. Being grateful, plays into a lot of things. From a psychological perspective, positive emotion translates into enhanced mood, and from a social construct, more empathy relates to stronger relationships. From a physical standpoint, stronger immune system equates to less pain. And there's been many, many different, studies on these as well. So fact check me if you'd like. Andrew Huberman goes really into depth on one of his podcasts about the science of gratitude and how it benefits the human body. So I definitely recommend looking into that one as well. But when we express gratitude, our brain releases dopamine and serotonin, which are two important neurotransmitters responsible for emotions and our mood. MRI studies have shown that several parts of our brain and pathways are activated when we feel and express gratitude, especially in the prefrontal cortex. That normally is an area known for the management of negative emotions, which I thought is incredibly interesting. But mental health is also affected. Gratitude is proven to reduce a multitude of toxic emotions ranging from envy to resentment to frustration to regret. Dr. Evans, a leading gratitude researcher, has conducted studies with gratitude being linked to well-being, and research has confirmed that gratitude effectively increases happiness and reduces depression. Now, there's a lot of different ways that we can do this. And something that I learned that was pretty interesting is that there's kind of different levels to the response your system has dependent on what type of exercises that you do. So coincidentally, I had a friend call me yesterday, and he was kind of down on himself, and I think he got caught into this whole comparison thing because he was talking with one of his friends and all the accomplishments and accolades that friend had. And a lot of his uncertainty came from comparison. But I tried to express to him that, kind of that same farmer story is that, everything happens for a reason. One of the things that I was going to do when I was young was join the military, and there was an incident that happened that prevented that. And I was resentful for a little bit, but the older I get, the more I realize that if I had gone down that route, I wouldn't have what I have today. In fact, the position I would have been in the military was pretty dangerous, and who knows what could have happened and what the byproduct of that could have been. So I try not to dwell on that. But in talking with my friend yesterday, one of the easiest gratitude exercises that you could do is first thing in the morning, just get a Post-it note, a pad of Post-it notes, and just write down 3 things that you're grateful for. And a lot of researches show that works just as effectively first thing in the morning or last thing at night, because your mind is always racing. I'm a really good thinker, but I'm a terrible sleeper. So if I can get that out, my mind will be a little more calm. Mm-hmm. So that's exercise 1. That's probably the least effective out of the following exercises. So keep that in mind. The second one is to express that gratitude. And, whether you're telling that to whoever you're grateful for or you're communicating it in some way, that's going to give a higher level of, I don't want to say satisfaction, but a higher level of that network change in your brain that's happening. Okay. And in that essence, it's kind of like when you buy a, birthday gift or Christmas gift and you wrap it up, but you don't give it to the person, right? Like you really get satisfaction when you get to hand that present off to somebody. Now, the third one is the most effective, and this isn't practical, so I'm not saying that you can do this every day, but is receiving gratefulness. Studies have shown that you get a substantial amount of neural change by listening and receiving gratitude, which I thought it's amazing. And it's kind of an incentive for me to give that gratitude, because in a selfish way, it makes me feel good. but even more importantly, it helps other people as well, even more than it helps me.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of thoughts on that. I like it all, but it's like a domino effect of if you're like, say, being grateful, it'll maybe spur that in other people too. So it's not just to get a compliment, right? But it's to spur that domino effect of encouraging others around you to maybe shift their mindset in something. So they're not leading with, oh, I hate this. It's like, hey, super thankful that you were able to do X, or thank you for just being you, appreciative. I really like that.
It's like smiling contagious, right?
Yeah.
So the more people who can do it, the spread it.
And it's interesting that writing one is not as effective.
Yeah, I thought that was intriguing.
I know,
Because
kind
you
of
have
a bummer.
like,
It's easy. It's easy.
it is, but
And that's probably why.
and I got the gratitude journal, which is basically that. It's like your 3 things you're thankful for. And then there's something else in it that I can't remember off the top of my head. And then the 3 things before you go to bed. And I was doing that, but it almost felt like I was doing that out of routine and like just, it is a good time, I guess, to set and be intentional about it. But I like what you said of it. It's sort of those actionable things that take that from you just writing it to putting it into action and making it a little more impactful.
Show the gratitude. I like that.
That is a good point, because the studies do mention that in order for it to be effective, it has to be genuine. Mm-hmm. You can't just write, I'm thankful for
my your family. Of course
and-
you are, but
yeah,
like, do you tell them when you see
Right.
them?
right.
When you're with kids or with married, do you tell them? Do you tell your pugs that you love them and are thankful for them?
This morning, no. They were being
just kidding.
turds.
Did they
but-
say it back to you is the question.
Sure. They slobbered all over me and licked my legs.
How exciting for them! How nice for them.
As someone who's married, Marcel, is there anything that's more powerful than your spouse showing the gratitude?
I don't think so. And I think Austin and I do a good, like, we're always telling each other, like, oh, we love, and genuinely meaning it, like, or I'm super thankful for you. Or if it's like a little thing, like I've had a gum grafting procedure and he like left work a little early. I was really busy at work all day. So he left work early to get me soup. And then it's just like, I was like, thank you so much. It's a little gesture, but I don't think anything really beats just saying it to each other. But what do you think?
Yeah, and it's not just verbally, right? It's the actions that can produce that. I'm with you on that, and we could talk about marriage for 24 hours, but I think that's a big thing, is just doing the little things, for whoever it may be that's special to you, and that could be your husband or wife or mom and dad or your kids, but leading by example is a big one. And again, you have to approach it as if you're not going to receive that back, right?
Do you see your kids doing it?
Oh yeah.
A little?
Yeah. Kids are a whole different, that is like, that is unconditional love at its finest, much like my dog prior to kids. I did love her, and now I love her a lot less in comparison.
Yeah.
But I think that's the natural progression of things. But yeah, I think, as a father, it's my job to expose them to act like a good human, and sometimes that goes against the grain. Kids in themselves are very focused on individual tasks and have a hard time to expand their thought process to think of long-term consequences, and no fault to them. I don't blame them. As an 8-year-old, my son, he loves football and basketball and baseball, and, that's what he's focused on. So I can appreciate that. But as a father, I have a big responsibility to instill that gratitude into them. And I do see that reflected, but not to sound cliche, but you hear a lot of times people say, the kids don't hear what you say. They see what you do. And part of my job is to show that by example and to treat everybody like a great human. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that's hard, because sometimes people are having bad days, and I have bad days all the time, but it's this constant coming back to center in a way, and realizing how lucky we are, you know, and it's so easy to overlook, especially from my kids' viewpoint, because they wake up and they turn on the faucet and they, you know, run their toothbrush underwater, but just that in itself. And I know this sounds silly, but there's so many people that have everything in the world, but they're not happy. Mm-hmm. And then there's people that have nothing and they're so grateful happy. And they're so happy. Yeah. So happy.
And I think they'll appreciate you as they get older. I think like I reflect back on like my upbringing with my parents, and they were very like huggy. You know, there were hard things too, don't get me wrong, but I think like my brother and I never felt like we watched them. And even now I can still hear them in my head. If I think something, I'm like, gosh, they would be like, Marcel, you need to calm down for a moment and like breathe. But, you know, I think that sticks with you as an adult, what the things your parents taught you, showed you, and how they made you feel.
Oh, 100%. My job isn't to, and this was kind of a shell shock. Like my son, when he was up to probably the age of 5, I was always thinking like, look, I have to mold you into this type of person. And then I heard something, I can't even pinpoint what it was, but I heard something that said like, it's not our job to help mold these kids. It's our job to give them perspective and just be the guardrails for when they kind of get out of line. So starting since my son was probably 5, now my daughter is 5, my job is let them be who they want to be and evolve in what they want to evolve in, but also just kind of keep them in line like a bowling alley, you know? It's like let them roll, let them figure it out. You never want something bad to happen to them, but I think every negative situation has a positive to it. And I don't want them to get, you know, in the gutter per se, but I do want them to feel the guardrails of life. And I want them to understand and fall down and be able to pick themselves back up. But it's a beautiful thing. And I can't wait for both of you guys to experience that. It's like the definition of unconditional. They could, you know, I might not always like them, but I do.
That song, I don't like you, but I love you. You guys know that song?
I should have brought my acoustic guitar. Right?
We could have sang together.
Kayla's karaoke coming into life, coming into work.
Okay. Well, we have some questions for you in regards to real estate, but we're just going to take a second to hear from our sponsor.
Hi, this is Shannon Hahn with the Department of Transportation and the Small Business Program. I'm here to talk to you today about the DBE and the SBE programs. The DBE program is for disadvantaged small businesses, so that's minority and women, and the SBE program is for non-minority and non-women-owned businesses. These programs provide business assistance to contribute to the growth and self-sufficiency of businesses in the transportation industry. Services include business skills development, training, networking opportunities, bonding assistance, and much, much more. So if you're a highway-related business, please go to our website. You'll see what the eligibility criteria is at mdt.mt.gov. You can call our 1-800 number, which is 800-883-5811. So give us a call. Thanks.
Okay, so I have some questions. We've been really deep into gratitude and putting that in place in our life and how that morphs different areas of our families and personal relationships. But your business is real estate, and so I want to know, what do you love about it? What are your favorite parts about it? What are things that most people don't know about it? Talk to me. Tell me real estate.
You know, real estate in general is great. I get to provide service to help facilitate people accomplishing their dreams. You know, I know this sounds cliche, but what I most like about it is the autonomy. You know, I've never was, even as a hygienist, I don't like having the ceiling put on me. I feel very restricted. One could say I'm against authority. I'm not, but I've been told that in just that, you know, I'm I think we're all people, and I don't think anyone really has the right to, within guidelines, of course, but has the right to kind of tell us what to do. So I think, real estate has kind of provided me the opportunity with infinite potential, yet it's also a benefit that I'm self-driven, because it is a very difficult industry. I mean, shoot, here in Billings alone, we've got like 1,200 realtors, and it's very competitive, but I would say about 20% of that will do about 85% of the work. So there's a lot of people, of course, that have their license that just don't do it frequently. The top 100 are, full-timers, ready to do this. But fear comes with any occupation, and this new AI deal is, it's scary for a lot of people. But my focus for the time being is just, controlling what I can control. I think in life we just have to pivot when necessary, and sometimes we pivot too late, and that's okay. But as long as we're willing to adapt and change and approach it with a fresh set of eyes, we're going to be fine. But real estate in general, it just gives me the autonomy to do what I want to do. And that, not to come off selfish here, but it lets me, I coach every one of my kids' sports teams. So
that's fun.
All the basketball was an interesting one because I've never played basketball before. So I had to do a YouTube journey on the coaching aspect of that. But it enables me. I do work nights and weekends a lot, quite frequently, but it also enables me to make my schedule in a way in that I can do the things that are important to me. And I love coaching and I love being a dad. So if I can work a Sunday but be able to coach on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm going to do it, And having a W-2 job or an 8-to-5 job, sometimes that'll get in the way. And I know that life is so finite that I'm going to seize the opportunity when I can, and for now, at this time of my life, I'm really enjoying it. I enjoy real estate itself, but I enjoy more so of what real estate enables me to do. And that's, spend as much time as I can with my family.
That's really nice. So I'm going to take us to just a little bit. So for those listening that maybe haven't ever purchased a house before, or they're in a home that they want to sell and maybe, like you said, upsize, downsize, what are just a few tips you have?
Oh, sure. Well, there's a lot that goes into it. And as a real estate broker, our job is to kind of hold your hand. So as far as making a shift, whether you're moving from one part of town to the other, or moving from one state to another, or buying your first home and, as an investment to yourself, or buying land, is to just talk to somebody that has that expertise. And, just kind of touching on the artificial intelligence thing, real estate is such a hyper local situation that it can't be replaced by, robots, right? So like, even though I can sell a home in Bozeman, for example, which is 2 hours away, it's going to be a disservice to my clients because I don't know the market like they know the market, right? Mm-hmm. So being hyper local enables us to learn all the specifics in all different areas to provide the best and most transparent and give confidence to the consumer as possible. So if someone does currently have a home, first off, you got to know what it's worth so you can be able to decide what you can afford going forward. But if you're buying your first home, there's a lot of options that you could do that. I hope this doesn't come off as a plug.
No, it's great if it does.
But feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to hold your hand.
And Jason, tell us what company you're with.
Real Estate Hub.
Yep. The Real Estate Hub. You guys have a physical office, beautiful space.
Right next
on
to
the
Crumble
West End.
Cookie.
Yeah, right next to Crumble Cookie. So if you're getting in there and getting one of their delicious cookies that melt in your mouth, stop by and say hi. Located right off of Central and Shiloh.
That's really helpful. So we've enjoyed having you here with us today, and just all of this great conversation we've had. We like to end each episode with a set of rapid fire questions. So I'm going to start with the first one. What are your red flags?
Ooh, in what context?
Just life.
In life.
Big question right out of the gate. We either like big questions or like 3 questions in one.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is just the big question.
Okay. I would say dishonesty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think my goal is to be as transparent as possible and obviously help as much as possible. But when people are dishonest and just not truthful is a big red flag for me. But give me an example. Like what?
I think that's a good one.
I think that's a great one.
I think it can be as little as like, I don't know. We've never really even answered it ourselves.
Well, tell me your guys's. What's your guys's red flag? Let's get to know the hosts a little bit.
Oh gosh. I would honestly say dishonesty would be one of my red flags. I am a very genuine person. I can't help it. It's literally like I just I'm just that kind of person. And so I really don't like when people aren't real. They're fake. And you can tell that when like you said before, you can tell when someone is coming into a sale for the wrong reasons. Like
they're trying to get something from you. Is that what you're saying?
Here's a better example. When haven't seen someone from high school and they're like, "Oh my God, how are you? It's so good to see you." And you're like, "We talked like 3 times in high school." Like, it's not a genuine interaction, right? It's very fake. I don't know. This is probably not making me sound like a good person, but
no,
I hear you. I hear you. When they want to sell like a
everyone gets
a type of soap.
Yes, you get the things.
Oh my gosh, on Facebook Messenger. Hi, I haven't talked to you in literal decades.
I have the thing to cure your weight problems. Try Thrive.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so you get all those emails. And so, I don't like that. I prefer to be a more genuine person and build off the relationships that I have and just really nurture those versus be a part of somebody who's not real to me. Right. So that's kind of like what I would say. I also go with my gut. So if my gut tells me, and it's never steered me wrong, if I get a weird feeling in my gut, I probably won't want to be around that person. That would be a red flag for me.
Okay.
Which, like I said, has never steered me wrong. Every time my gut's been like,
yeah, there's something
been
about
not a
that,
good
right?
person. Yeah.
I think that's that's good. Mm-hmm.
How about you, Marissa?
I would agree with what both of you have said. I think, like, if you say you're going to do it.
Integrity.
Kind of, yeah. It's really big for me. And I also, like, a big red flag for me is, like, helplessness or, like, damsel-y kind of
victim
behavior.
mentality, yeah.
It's a big red flag for me. So those are 2 of my things. Yeah.
Like excuses? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, it drives me nuts.
Okay.
Yeah. And not that legit things don't happen. I don't think it's like I'm like by the book, like, think life doesn't happen, because it does. But I think it's when it's constant, consistent all the time, or just like not being able to.
They don't take ownership.
Take ownership of things that have happened to get to the situation.
I know we're trying to close this up, but I saw this video, and the video was an experiment. And the experiment was writing a letter to the person that you're most thankful for. Mm-hmm. And it could be a mentor, it could be a family member, it could be a friend. And once you write that letter, you call them and you tell them. And what I saw, it was just super moving. So I encourage you guys. I'm going to do it.
I was like, have you done it?
No, I haven't, but I'm going to.
Good. And then you'll have to tell us how it goes.
I will.
Okay.
Yeah, I will.
We want to hear back.
I hope you guys do it too, though.
Yeah.
I
think it would be really good.
I like that idea. I think that's really good.
And then one last quote. It's not happy people who are grateful. It's the grateful people who are happy.
I really love that.
I like that.
We have 2 more questions.
Oh, sure. Jeez.
So do you want to go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is your advice for maintaining quality friendships when you're a very busy person? You're a father of 2, you coach a whole bunch of teams.
Which is so fun. I love that.
Very active business. So.
Yeah, intentionality for sure. I think everything in life is intentionality. A lot of times, like we were talking about fear earlier, fear is a paralyzer. And what's even worse than that is being isolated. We're not meant to be isolated. We're meant to be in community. And being a dad and being busy has unfortunately, kind of constricted my capability of doing those sort of things. But as they get older, it's going to get better and better. I'm just in a season of my life where it's very difficult to get out. I run into people that we know together, and it's crazy. Like Allie, I'll see Allie, once a year, and it's crazy how fast things go. And we always mean to meet up, but it's just difficult, and it's just a season that we're in, and it's only temporary. But I think intentionality and being aware that sometimes it's inconvenient, but very important, because we do need friendship and we do need community. And as long as we're intentional, it can happen. But isolation kills, and it's not healthy. It's not productive.
I really like that. And I think even sometimes those, because it is weird. It's it feels like yesterday we were all at Next Gen things together, seeing each other all the time. And our lives have just grown a lot. And I think what we're doing is we're just busier. But even those texts of hey, thinking about you, or I just saw that post you posted. That's really great. I hope you're well. Little things just to let your friends know.
Well, that's a hard
about
thing.
Them.
That's a hard thing too, right? Is we're seeing, whether it be Facebook or Instagram, we're seeing the highlights, which is great. I want to cheer everybody on, but we get into that comparison thing, oh, you're going on this vacation, or you've got this or this, and that's unhealthy in itself. And it's easier to not be intentional about connecting, because you're, what do you talk about if you see all the stories posted?
Yeah. All the other things that don't get posted because they're not as Instagrammable.
Right.
Okay, so Jason, we have to ask, what's your favorite family activity in Billings?
Ooh, great question. I love going to the zoo.
I love the zoo.
Yeah, I love the zoo. I think my kids like the playground more than the animals.
That's okay.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful walk,
I'd say all of it tires them out, though.
Yeah. Outside of family, though, the music scene.
Cool.
My wife and I are really big into live music, and when they have the live music shows at the zoo,
those are really fun.
Those are fun.
Yeah.
And those are a lot of work to put on, because they're pulling that stage set from Idaho. I mean, they're huge production, so it's really fun that they do those, because those concerts out there are so much fun.
Yeah.
A ton of fun.
They're awesome.
Yeah.
They're a ton of fun.
Those poor animals, though.
Yeah.
Right? They don't like the genre
bears.
of music. Yeah.
Hey, maybe they like music too.
Have you guys talked about what your guys' favorite thing to do is?
A little bit. I think we
so.
talked about it on our first episode of season 2.
What do you got?
Oh,
Give
yeah.
it to me.
I love food, so I love to
Okay.
eat. And I love the
What's your favorite?
oh gosh.
Put on the spot.
I know.
I can't give favorites, but I love Walker's and the Marble Table and Edgar Bar, and I love the Windmill, and oh my gosh, the Copper Onion and the Local. I mean, we just have a really good food scene here, and Stacked. I love their shrimp tacos. So we, yes, food scene for sure. I just love the activities that we have. So a lot of different options. I love crafting, so our craft fairs. I love the Alberta Bear to go see shows and plays and concerts. And I just was at a concert 2 weeks ago at the Metro. So I just love the amount of different things that we can do. And I'm a very indecisive person, so I can't tell you this is it. Other than I could tell you my favorite movie, but I can't. The rest I can't.
It sounds like you got a lot to be grateful.
Yeah, I do. I am very grateful. I grew up in Helena, and we did not have this amount of things to do, and I really wanted that. And so when I moved to Billings and there was so many options for activities, I just love it. It's one of my favorite parts about Billings is there's so many different ways to be involved in so many different things. So
Yeah.
Awesome.
that would be mine.
Those. I think you guys have said really great things that I completely agree with. I too enjoy going out to eat, so that's fun. Walker's was definitely on the list. I also really love City Vin. Austin and I just did, I think I talked about it on a different episode, a wine tasting class, and I've done them outside of Montana, but we did a France wine tasting, and it was so much fun. Like Abby's team is a ton of fun, so that's really fun. Shopping, I love like something chic, Rock House, Apricot Lane, and I think what I really like about all these things we've said are the people, because good or bad, like I never go to Costco and not run into someone I know or see someone I know, and I think that's just the perks of having more external facing positions, jobs, careers. But I really like the people in Billings. So I think getting to see them or support their small business is really fulfilling.
Yeah. Billings is unique in that way, right? Coming from Arizona, you didn't run into anybody. But I agree with you. Going to Costco.
I'm like, whether you want to or not, I'm like, you're running into.
Even if you go on a weeknight.
I know. I know. Every time.
Yeah.
Every time. But that's a blessing.
So I'm like, I do have to at least put like a hat on or look like a coat, make it look a little more chic.
I'll look like a slub. I don't care.
I can't wear sweats out. I just can't do
I don't really wear sweats out. Joggers are different though. Joggers aren't
leggings,
sweatpants.
They're different. So Jason, where can everyone find you? I know we talked about where we can physically find you, but how can they get connected with you? Social, website?
Yeah, Instagram or Facebook, just Jason Leininger.
Okay.
Leinanger.
Thank you for spelling that.
I don't know my tag name,
but we'll tag him in our posts.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for listening.
Yeah,
thanks for
coming on.
This is great.
Thanks for coming on. This has been fun.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jason. We hope you enjoyed this episode.
Make sure you are subscribed to The Vault at 201 North Broadway, wherever you podcast, including YouTube.
Connect with us on Facebook at The Vault at 201 North Broadway and Instagram at The Vault_201.
Don't forget to visit us at thevault@201.com and subscribe to our newsletter.
We will see you next time.
Bye.
Thank you to Big Sky Economic Development for supporting The Vault at 201 North Broadway. Big Sky Economic Development provides leadership and resources for business creation, expansion, retention, new business recruitment, community development, and workforce development. Learn more at bigsky economicdevelopment.org.